Mhm.
Talking sports with Nooner and Forrest. We took a week off. We're back on this coming week. Uh, let's see here. Since we've been gone, Arkansas's won one and they lost one. So there you go. Great weekend for college football and all that good stuff. We'll get to that here in a little bit. Before we get started, Brad, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing fantastic. Looks like both of us had easy Friday nights. No disrespect to the teams that were playing, but but anyway, of course, being a back judge in a Mount Ida game, especially Mount Ida's controlling the football, is I don't want to say it's the easiest job, but it's one of the easiest jobs because they run that good beer. And but I will say this about Mount Ida. One of the games of the week this week in Arkansas is Mount Ida travels to Conway Christian. Uh, that's
And
gonna be a good. That will be a good game. If Mount Ida
probably gonna
can
blow him
control.
out though.
Well, I was gonna say if Mount Ida can control the clock, if they can control the clock, run their beer, I mean they got a decent chance. I'm not gonna say they're gonna win it, but they do have a decent chance. Um, but the thing about Mount Ida right now is, unfortunately, Ricky, is they do have a slew of injuries, including their starting quarterback. Um, but anyway, but like I say, that should be one of the games to look for in 2A. That I think is there. Of course, my boys, Paragould, their magical run ends. But I told
Yeah,
you, I said this. I said they're going to win one more game. That's it.
yeah.
That's all they're going to win. I mean, my expectation is not that high. Hey, if they win two more games and go 5-5, I would be ecstatic. That would be a great season for Paragould, and that would be their best season since let's see here, Ricky, real quick, 2004 when they went 6-4.
Yeah, that's wow. Okay, historic 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 seasons here. No, Conway Christian is one of the runaway favorites to not just win the conference, but to win the but to win a state title too.
Yes, they are.
Between them and Carlisle, I think that's going to be the two. Um, that's going to be the two biggest ones. As a matter of fact, right now, those two teams lead the 2A in offense as far as offensive scoring goes. And as far as defensive scoring goes, Carlisle edges them. Carlisle's only giving up 41 points. Conway Christian's giving up 51 points. So it's a very, very tight knit deal. And if I'm gonna look at Carlisle's schedule real quick to see who all they've played. They played Drew Central. I've had Drew Central. They're not very good. So them blowing out Drew Central, that's no surprise. Junction City's not the Junction City of old, but blowing them out, like again, no surprise. No surprise they blew out Desert.
Yeah.
Definitely not surprised they blew out Baptist Prep. So it, like I said, I'm really hoping Carlisle. I'm really hoping Carlisle and Conway Christian don't have to meet the state championship. I've not seen the bracket yet, but I'm really hoping that I'm hoping they don't have to meet up until the state championship game. That's going to be one heck of a game if they get to meet up with each other.
That will be very good. Like I say, another team to watch out for. I mean, Mayflower of the 3A, they seems like they got rolling this year. But they're not in the strongest conference in the world, though. That's the thing with Mayflower. But uh, that was one of the teams that was highlighted at the on the Arkansas Sports Network Facebook page here recently. Um, uh, Again, there's a lot of good high school football across the state right now. Also, shout out to the Texas High Tigers, who is 5A Division Two, which they came back and beat Fayetteville a couple of weeks ago. They are right now ranked number one in the state of Texas in the 5A D2. So, and that should also give kudos to Fayetteville as well for how good of a game they played. Um, Being in 5A2 Division Two is like being in 6A in Arkansas, or a very good 5A team.
They put Fayetteville, I think, ranked. I can't remember where they ranked Fayetteville at, but I've got Fayetteville the favorites to win 7A this year. I don't think there's. I know Bryant's still pretty good, but I'm not sure if they're going to have the. I'm not sure if they're going to have the defense to stop Fayetteville's passing offense. They're pretty good.
Right. Well, hopefully and hopefully, like I say, we'll get some good games coming up. I don't have no games scheduled this week, really, Ricky. I got Pee Wee
Mm.
Monday. That's it.
What's
But
your Pee Wee game that?
Mount Ida.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
I've
not
got
far.
I've got to go back to Lake Village Friday. They play McGee. That's probably going to be a blowout. No disrespect to Lake Village. McGee is starting to figure things out. Um,
Well, I wonder who won gets Dumas in Lake Village. My crew that I worked with at Hamburg this past Friday. I didn't keep up with that.
Dumas won 28-6.
Okay, got Dumas 128.6. Well, yeah, I remember my crew joking, kind of jokingly said, well, let's hope somebody scores first or scores. They were kind of worried about that game.
Yeah,
Also, also shout out to Jessyville. They won their game against Magnet Cove. I know Magnet Cove's not very good, but they only have one loss in the season. And like you said, Glen Rose is down this year. So this is Jessyville's opportunity to, if they're going to make some noise, to do it this year in 3A in their conference. But they do have to deal with Perryville. That'll be the challenge for them. But again, shout out to Jessyville and Fountain Lake. What in the world was going on in Bauxite? What in the world was going on? Did 78-72? What was that? Making your boys. What in the world?
just at the same time because not only is Fountain Lake coming back from 8-man football to 11-man football, but you're scoring 72 points at Bauxite.
72.
So I don't know. I don't know if you've heard. From my understanding, there was a ton of penalties,
I heard. I did
and
hear.
the game did not end till 10:45.
Oh, I'm surprised it ended at 10:45. But
3 hours and 45 minutes for a high school football game. That's absolutely insane.
that's compared to our games. I know your game probably ended a little bit earlier than mine, but mine ended at
I
nine
was done
o'clock.
at I was done at 8. I was done like 8:20.
I know. I was saying you had a forfeit at halftime, and of course we had a running clock in the second half, so we were done at 9. I mean,
That's when it's good. That's when it's really good. But
yeah.
now I don't know. Like I said, so I know Friday night I go to Lake Village. Thursday I go all the way down to CrossFit, but I'm not sure who CrossFit's playing. I'm gonna have to look up and see who they're playing. Usually they match up with who they're playing with on Friday night. Not always because it's weird how that works. I know
Mm-hmm.
CrossFit senior high team, they're struggling this year.
Yes, they
Gosh,
are.
they're struggling bad. I don't know. I tell you what. So right now it says Stuttgart. We'll see if that sticks.
Uh,
Stuttgart's junior high isn't bad either. Stuttgart's junior high beat West Helena. I had them. I actually had Stuttgart's junior high this past week. This will be the third time I have Stuttgart's junior high. But
wow.
like I said, there's a lot of football. The sad part is, Brad, is after this week we're halfway done already.
Yeah, that is a sad part of high school. And I'm gonna be honest with you. I gotta say, I gotta thank you for encouraging me and kind of convincing me to get into high school football.
With me,
What's up?
which one do you like to do better, football or baseball?
Baseball's always been my sport. That's the thing because I played a lot of baseball. Uh,
Easier than what you realized it would be.
yeah, well, that's what I think. Football was a lot more easier because my concern, I'll be honest with you, Ricky, was running. Was the running because I'm not really in shape. That's number one. I'm going to try to get more in shape this year. And number two, the second part is you may not know this, but I have really bad knees. And one of the reasons why the National Guard rejected me when me and Mark Herman signed up for this back almost 20. So
Wait, time out. I knew Mark Hunt. I didn't know you tried to get in the National Guard.
I try to get the National Guard. Yeah. So,
What?
yeah, Jared Mitchell, of course, was convincing us about all these benefits and stuff.
Jared Mitchell. Hilarious.
Yeah, so I tried out, but there was this one move that they want us to do. Like if when you're on your knees, you had to lift up with your knees. I couldn't do that. and the doctor was shocked. He said, "You're already suffering from arthritis?" I mean, I said, "I guess, I don't know. Nobody's ever diagnosed with me with that." I said, "I can't do it."
About you, man. I guess I learn something new about you every now and then. I did not know
Yeah,
that you
yeah.
tried to that
I
you
thought I
tried
told you
to.
that.
Uh-uh.
Yeah, I
No, you
thought.
did no.
Yeah, I
Goodness
thought I told.
gracious.
Yep.
Anyways, yeah, my other boys watching Chapel. They went down the other night. They also went down the other night to get. I believe they played Thursday. I wish I could have been at that game. I really wanted to see my cousin, but because he's the band director at Cersei now, but that's okay. But yeah, a lot of high school football that's going to be coming up. I'm sure once playoff time gets here, considering that me and you are both kind of in the system now, trying to get back
Yep.
in and everything like that. I think we'll be able to go through playoff situations and everything like that, and we'll give our predictions and put our 2 cents into it. We don't know what we're doing anyways. All right,
Like I said, my philosophy about our show is we will tell you how not to do a podcast.
that's correct. That is absolutely correct, and we will stick by that to the book.
Absolutely. Absolutely. To the very end.
To the very end. Podcasting for Dummies. That's exactly. We're going to write that book. Podcasting for Dummies. All right. So, like I said, there's a lot of football. There's really not a whole lot to talk about football. Football was not. I mean, there was nothing. The only real shock that happened was Kentucky beating Ole Miss, and then of course we'll get to Arkansas in a little bit. But I want to get your thoughts on the Vince McMahon documentary. Let's start there today. Um,
Yeah.
I did not finish the last episode. I did finish. I did watch five of the 6 episodes though, and while a lot of it didn't really surprise me per se, I'm surprised that there's so many people who are that idiotic to not know that Vince McMahon was not one of the best people in the entire world. It's like people are like, I didn't realize he was such a bad dude. He's a businessman. What do you expect? You're on my DAs of the week, by the way. And
um,
we'll get to that later. But anyway, give me your thoughts on the Vince McMahon documentary.
so I watched all 6 episodes, and you're gonna the finish um is really something to see when you get to the 6th episode. First of all, I came out wanting to give Shane McMahon a hug. That's number one. Um,
Right.
yeah, I mean, if you watch episode 5, I mean, very closely, I mean,
I watched it too. So yeah,
yeah, yeah, I mean, but especially after episode 5, how he explained how the relationship, what Paul Heyman had said, that what Vince said to him one time, and I mean, I just see, and of course, even Stephanie said, Vince was harder on Shane than he was on me, a lot harder on Shane than me. And I guess that's a natural tendency for dads if they have sons compared to daughters, I guess. I guess that is a kind of a natural tendency, but I just came around. I just came that around that I wanted to give Shane a hug. That's number one. I didn't learn anything new per se. Um, I think, but I don't think the documentary was meant for that. I think it was meant because if you know the producers, Bill Simmons, he's the 30 for 30. Uh, he's the 30 for 30 guy that created the 30 for 30 series for ESPN. And the other producer was the guy that produced Tiger King. So it was, I believe the documentary was meant for a broader audience. But I think the biggest thing to take from this is we got to hear from Vince McMahon himself about his life for the first time. Um, did Vince share everything about himself? Like he opened up all the way? No, I don't feel like he did. Um, and of course, no, I've also, Ricky, I think to get context to this, I would really encourage you to watch the live reaction of what Eric Bischoff and Comrade Thompson, because they do a live reaction show for each episode. I think there's a lot of context, and plus they have some special guests on there with a few of the episodes, which kind of gives some context there too. Um, I think overall, I don't think you learn much. If you're a hardcore wrestling fan, you didn't learn anything. But I think you got a deeper dive of the psyche of Vince McMahon. And I tried to not to be biased because um as a pastor, one of my things and one of my interests has always been is counseling. And I would say if I had to sit in front of Vince McMahon, a lot of the storylines, especially in the Attitude Era, and this is me talking, okay? I'm not trying to be over religious here, but this is me talking. But if I and this is from readings I've done and studies I've done, I would say most of his storylines comes from the trauma that he has experienced. That's my opinion. I think a lot of it, but again, I think he thinks the trauma they experience is about making money. And so he uses those storylines. I mean, Stephanie even said this. He said, my father suggested one time of a storyline that he impregnated me. he suggested that storyline, and Steph's like, no, we're not going there. We're not going there in the storyline. And you know what? Another interesting thing, and this is from watching Eric's podcast, The Law of Reaction, and
I'm gonna
watching
have to listen to
episodes.
that.
Yeah, it's a very interesting, especially for episode 5, because what they bring up is how, remember Paul Heyman's statement about, no, Shane wanted to do something very creative, and Vince McMahon says, "You're not going to do that pretty much over my dead body. You're going to have to do to me what I had to do to my father. If you can't do that, I know you're not man enough." But Stephanie always was. Stephanie, and so they came so they kind of came to a theory about, remember the email that got the ball rolling about Vince McMahon getting removed from the board, but eventually he came back? Don't you think it might be Stephanie? Because, the heart, the dagger right there.
Simple
Yeah,
fact is that um, it would make sense if it was Stephanie because she was
yeah,
away from the company.
absolutely.
At the if I'm not mistaken, was she away from the company at the time that happened?
I believe, yeah, yeah, or she had taken a lesser role. I mean, but I think she was away from the company. I think you are correct. And then she became the CEO, the board of directors, the tipper, and then of course Vince came back because he still had all the shares, which eventually they sold to Endeavor. But like I said, I don't think you learn anything new, but I think you came you came to this expecting some of the stories that you heard. Um, I think I think Hulk Hogan comes out very egotistical in this interview, but of course this is before 2024, which
Yeah,
this is before Bret Hart continues to be whiny. But here's the thing about Bret. I will say this about Bret Hart. When he tells a story, he usually sticks with the story. He has not changed and wavered from any of the times he's talked about the screw job. And even Shawn Michaels said this. And I give Shawn Michaels kudos with this. And I think a lot of people misses this. Shawn says, I don't think it was Bret was unwilling to do the job. I think Bret did not want to do the job for me because of how I was at that time. And there was many
actually,
times.
Brett's actually been consistent with that too because Brett has stated that in the past that John was not willing to
Put him
base
over.
put him over,
Told him that.
and
Shawn said,
yeah,
yeah.
and so yeah, and that's because they had that big feud because Sean was a jerk. Like Sean has admitted several times he was not the most pleasant person to get along with.
And here's the funny thing about it. The Undertaker had actually offered to do the job. Because Undertaker, I know Undertaker can say I was injured, but he does in one of his podcasts. He addresses the Montreal Screwjob. He said he went up to Vince and said, "Vince, I hear you having problems with Sean and Bret about this. Let me go in the ring with Bret. I could get the job done. I could get the belt off Bret. I think Bret will do it for me, and I could give it to Sean down the road pretty quickly."
Thing is, though, Undertaker did not know what was going to happen. That has been a stated fact
That is a safe
by
fact.
Undertaker and Bruce Pritchard. The only people who knew was Vince, Triple H, and Shawn Michaels. That's how close together they kept it. They kept it so close knit on the screw job. It was just those three, from my understanding. Now there may have been
Yeah,
an executive or someone like that under
right,
Vince who knew about it, but as far
right.
as who knew about the screw job, it was very, very few. Because if you heard Triple
Well,
H in the documentary, Triple H had said Vince told him, "You take it to your grave that you knew nothing."
yeah, well, and I understand that, but what I'm trying to say is when they were talking, when they were having these issues, and when Vince McMahon really didn't know what he was going to do per se, about
Right.
whether how
That
yeah, and because Bret Hart on his contract had reasonable creative control, which in legal lingo, we don't know really what that means. So, what is reasonable, right? But I found that I found that interesting. I found that, but I mean, I it's nothing new, but I found it that Sean actually said it out of his mouth because Sean's been more open about over the years, and of course the Attitude Era. Nothing new really there, except for they went a little bit into the Sable issue where she sued her for sexual harassment, but guess what? She gets booked in a sexual harassment angle. It's just like Vince said, but Paul Heyman said the best at the end. Vince McMahon has had really one real relationship, or one true partner, and that's the business. He's had affairs he's had affairs in his marriage with Linda, and that sort of thing. He admitted that in the Playboy interview, that sort of thing. But his only true relationship has been the business, and really the business has owned Vince, not Vince owned the business. So I think that's the main thing I get out of it is from the philosopher Paul Heyman himself.
this is so. Like I said, I didn't learn a whole lot of new things as far as like in the documentary goes. But I'll say this much. There's the old saying that nice guys finish last.
Yeah.
And if you look at some of the most popular coaches in America today, Nick Saban, probably among the most popular one. Bobby Petrino before he, basically fell from grace, if you want to call it that way. Um, but like Nick Saban, if you like, he was not a very pleasant person to get along with. Now it's a little bit different because he's away from football. But when he was on the football field, it was all business. He was not a pleasant person to be around when it came to football because that was his job and that's all he really cared about was the job. It was the business. And
Right.
so and like I can name many coaches that I have been around in high school football.
There's a few exceptions, though. I
There's
mean,
a few
Bobby
exceptions, but for the
Bowden,
most part, but for
Bobby
the
Bowden
most
doesn't.
but for the most part, Brad, a lot of them have been jerks. Bill Belichick, he's pleasant now because he's not around football, but when he's around football, he's not the most pleasant person to get along with. That's why Tom Brady didn't play the last 2 years with them, and plus, the Patriots wasn't willing to pay him what he was worth. But if people thought Vince McMahon was this standout nice dude, that's not the case. There was
Oh
Vince
no.
and Stephanie, I thought pointed out very, very well. There's Vince McMahon, the boss, and there's Vince McMahon, the father, the grandfather. She's like they're two totally different.
And
And
that's another thing, just real quick, what Shane said. Vince will give you what he wants to give you about himself.
the weird part about Vince, and I will say this much, Brad, I do think his childhood had a lot to do with it.
Yeah, I
Because
agree.
his stepfather was very abusive in the years. Because you can do there's studies done. I'm reading studies right now, as a matter of fact. There are
Yeah.
studies that have been done that early childhood means quite a bit, especially those first 12 years. I
Does.
mean, he didn't know who his father was till he was 12, and then of course he eventually found a good relationship and everything like that. And from my understanding, his father only told him that he loved him and he was proud of him one time ever in his entire life.
Right before he
But
died.
and that was right before he died. And a lot of it was because he had disagreements with the way the company wanted to go. Vince was like, dude, I want to win. It's like, we're playing nice, hushy, hushy with all these other wrestling promotions that are going on. He's like, I want to be the main guy. And he was the main guy for many, many years. He was it. WCW comes around, and this is where I can defend Vince. I'm not going to sit here and say that his storylines were spot on, that they should have been. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not supporting his storylines. I'm not supporting any of that. But this is what I will say. When your main competition is taking wrestlers that you built up and basically doing a different creative standpoint with those wrestlers, you have to do something to minimize that competition. And I
Yeah.
want to say this, and look, Eric Bischoff can go from wherever he wants, and I do believe Eric Bischoff when he does say, he mentioned it in the documentary, but I've also heard him mention it in a podcast that he's done with Bruce Pritchard. The executives, whenever AWOL merged with Warner, whenever they all merged together, Ted Turner, everything like that, he said Ted Turner didn't have control of his own business anymore
No, he did not.
because
He did not.
it was so bad. And so he went into a room full of executives who knew nothing about wrestling, and
And
he
they
had
didn't
to
want it.
change. They didn't want it. He had to change everything about it. So in some ways, I will side with Eric Bischoff because the simple fact is that WCW went under because of that. But this is something that I will also argue, Brad. WCW was not like how WWE is. They were more top heavy with their top stars instead of balancing the stars to develop them and create a future for it, because you had a lot of egos. It wasn't just Hulk Hogan and Bret Hart that was in WCW at the time. There was quite a bit more. Razor Ramon was over there. Kevin Nash was over there. There was a time that
Well, yeah.
Mick Foley was over there. There was Booker T was over there. There was
Well,
quite a bit of wrestlers that were over there, and
yeah.
so as far as Vince goes, he has to do something to minimize the competition. And in the end, regardless of how it went down, Vince McMahon won. He won the Monday Night Wars and played it simple. And it was, and I'm telling you, like, I thought and regardless of if the merger or not, Vince McMahon was going to find a way to win it because he's done it before.
Vince McMahon was still in talent before Eric was, though.
I know. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's not what I'm.
And
That's
and
not what. I
and,
mean,
and,
Eric. Yeah, no. That's the thing. Like, I'm not saying anything about stealing the talent.
that
What I'm
well, that's
saying is, what
yeah.
I'm saying is, the talent he stole, he developed that top talent, and that was it. He didn't go bottom up like Vince McMahon did. Vince McMahon slowly and surely found a way to build it up, and finally, it was too much for WCW.
Well, he was good at developing new superstars, but some would argue that Hulk Hogan was already Hulk Hogan before he went to the WWE when he was at the AWA.
But it was
That was,
different. But it was
but
different.
that stop. I'm just saying, some people would argue that
Yeah,
it
well,
was
some people
different.
are idiots.
Well, but here's the thing, Ricky. But Vince McMahon himself, when he was addressed with this issue, saying, "Well, Ted was going after me because he was trying to hurt me. I was going up because I was worried about competition." And they go, "Well, weren't you hurting other competitors?" And he goes, "Well," and then he said, "Okay, let me say, I know I'm going to sound hypocritical here, but when they go after me, they're hurting me. Now, what I say is for effect, but what I'm really thinking is if I was in Ted's shoes, I would have done the same thing." And
The same thing.
so that my point is, really, Vince McMahon earlier on to build his company did the same thing as Ted and Eric Bischoff. Really, he did the same thing, except for what the difference with Vince McMahon compared to all the other promoters back in the 80s was he had a bigger vision for the business than they did. He saw what cable was going to do for the business. He saw how he could make this global or national at least, but global eventually. And so I think that's what got Vince McMahon over the top, to be honest with you. But as far as still in talent back in the 80s. Now, I'll give Vince this in the 90s, he had to develop talent. But even with Stone Cold Steve Austin was getting his attitude. No, people would argue was from ECW. He was in ECW before he went to WWE, and he was also at WCW. Razor
If he fired
Ramon,
him.
yeah, and then Scott Hall, yeah, Scott Hall was actually in WCW before he went to the WWF, and then he went back to the WCW, and really the Razor Ramon character was a knockoff of the Diamond Stud. If you look at the Diamond Stud from WCW back in the day and look at Razor Ramon, they're pretty much a similar character. But but Vince McMahon at the end though was able to develop more talent like The Rock, like Triple H, like these other wrestlers that would end up, even the women in that time. He was able to develop characters unlike WCW. And like you said, Eric Bischoff was very humstrung by a group of corporates that did not want wrestling, to care less about wrestling. And what they were worried about is making sure that wrestling was going to go out of business because they didn't want it. They just did not want wrestling. So, but yeah, I think we both can agree that we didn't learn anything new. But I think what we can agree is at the end of the day, Vince McMahon's a complicated person. He's a very complicated person.
Well,
And
there's two things I'm going to say, and then we'll move on. One thing I'm going to disagree with you with. I don't want to give Shane a hug. I honestly don't want to give Shane a hug. I don't feel that bad for him. He grew up with a billionaire father. He grew up in a business where all he literally had to do was basically do the same thing that Vince did. He had to become a student of wrestling, which he did. But I think to a certain extent, Brad, and I could be wrong, but I think to a certain extent, he wanted to take full control quicker than what Vince wanted to let go of. And that's why Vince made that statement to him. They're like, look, you can buy me out for what it's worth, just like I did with my father, or you can just do whatever it is. And I get it, to pursuing other careers and everything like that. But that's the nature of the business. And I understand that there's different business perspectives and everything like that. But in the long end, Brad, in the long end, Shane's still doing just fine. He's been involved in many storylines. Can you who he even had a match with the Undertaker at WrestleMania? I mean, who? Come on. I don't feel bad for the guy. I honestly don't. And that
well,
I hate to say that. I really don't feel bad for the guy whatsoever.
here's the thing though, and you might have grew up with this too, Ricky. And I'll say it's probably more personal for me than it is for you. When you're
Mhm.
trying to gain your father's approval, I don't care how much money you have.
That's
And
very true.
I mean that,
I got
uh,
that part. Yes, I will get
yeah,
that part. Yes, that part I will agree with you with. But
because that's what I feel like what Shane was trying to do. He was trying to get his father's approval. And I think he still was trying to get his father's approval, even throughout the documentary, how he talked about it. But he was real and raw and authentic as well about their relationship. But I think at the end of the day, I think you kind of had what you call it, a pattern. Vince, try to get his father's approval, and he could really never get that until the end. And hopefully Shane will get some closure with that. But I mean, like I said, Ricky, I don't care how much money you get. I mean, yes, Shane's has been very successful. He has gone on to make millions of dollars himself. He did live an affluent life, but but to me, when you're trying to gain I mean, even when your father's not even in your life, like mine, but you're still, even though you're trying to get that approval, and you're just at the end of the day, it's just very hard. Now and that's me personally, where I feel empathy for Shane.
I mean, and I get that. I really do. And
Mhm.
I think to a larger extent with when it comes to me, because me and my dad really don't talk a whole lot anymore.
Mhm.
We just don't. And I stopped looking for his approval years ago, Brad, just for the simple fact is that I got to a point in my life where I'm like, my dad is who he is.
Yeah. I mean, you
and
got
I
to come to that point.
and I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
Shane has to get to that point where his dad is who he is,
Yeah.
and he has to get okay with that. And I get it. I
It's
get it.
easier said
Trust
than
me, I do.
done, though.
But it's easier said than done because, like, Fallout, like I said, I've barely seen the man in the last 5 years.
Right.
He hasn't seen like my daughter. He hasn't seen Shelby. Gosh, probably in 3 years now, and a lot of it's just and a lot of it's just because of the choices he's made. And
Right.
so, but like I said, I get all that.
But
There's one more thing, Brad, that I want to point out. If Vince McMahon was such a bad guy, why does everybody end up coming back? And I'll leave it at that.
money.
Exactly.
It's about,
Money,
yeah, it's about the
business.
business.
He's a businessman. He is more than capable of business. That's why Sable came back. That's why Trish came back. That's why Stone Cold came back eventually. That's why The Rock, well, of course, The Rock had a different relationship with Vince McMahon and everything like that.
And
But
even, yeah.
that's why Jericho came back. That's why CM Punk came back. And CM Punk didn't even have a conversation with Vince. He had a conversation with Triple H. But even in the whole long run of things, Hulk Hogan came back. Mick
Yeah.
Foley came back. Mick Foley even made a statement years ago during a podcast. There was a questionnaire or whatever that got on air. And he even said, we all come back eventually. And it's because it's the nature of the business. People who, dude, Vince McMahon, let's make a story out of it. Come on, let's
Yeah.
make some money off of it. It's genius. It's literally genius when it comes to the wrestling business. And he went above and beyond a company that is strictly entertainment. It is predetermined entertainment. And yet, there are a lot of personal issues that they have used over the years, not just with Vince McMahon, but with others who have had real life events, such as the trio of Matt Hardy, Edge, and Lita. It's beautiful. And they've made a ton of money off of it because we, as people, are idiots. And we love drama and we love stories. That's how we work. That's how our minds are wired.
I got two questions for you.
All right, what's up?
Number one, because of the release of this documentary, because they said they weren't going to release this, because they shelved it because of all the allegations and stuff, but they did end up releasing it. Number one, do you think that Monday Night Raw will be edgier, or will they or will the documentary kind of influence that because of all the Attitude Era? Because I don't think you can do as much of the Attitude Area as people thinks.
But it won't be like the Attitude Era edge year. There's going to be certain things they're not going to be able to do. But I mean, but at the same time, it's also one of those deals. I think they get out of the PG era, which we've kind of seen that slowly unfold in the last 2 years. But I think they can get edgier with it, but I don't think it's going to be as edgy as the Attitude Era. I think there's going to be
Right.
boundaries that they'll have to take with it. Yes.
I agree with that. Number two, do you think that the release of this documentary was for Netflix and TKO to distance themselves from Vince McMahon?
No.
You don't think so? Really?
No. No.
Because
from him.
Because this is not
This has nothing. This has nothing to do with Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon has nothing to do with the business anymore. TKO, the UFC, all that, they fully own the business. He doesn't even own a share anymore. He has nothing.
I understand that. But when people sees WWE and when people mentions WWE,
they're going to think of Vince McMahon. But
they think Vince McMahon.
But things move on. Companies move on. Everybody moves on. No, I don't think they're going to do that. Well, even if so, I don't think they're going to distance themselves from him. No.
Well, I disagree, and the reason why I disagree with this is they had this shelved. They didn't have to release this. They didn't have to release it at all if they didn't want to. And all of a sudden, it gets released right before the Raw debuts on Netflix. Now, obviously,
January,
but well, I mean, within a reasonable amount of time away. But I mean, think about it. They have let's see here. The reasonable amount of time. It doesn't shine a good light on Vince McMahon. And TKO had to view the footage before Netflix released it. I mean, not like, Oh, I
Had
bet they
nothing.
did. Oh, I bet they did. Oh, I mean, I disagree. TKO had to view it, Ricky.
TKO.
What's that?
With TKO.
What's that?
This had nothing to do with
I
TKO.
understand, but now that it's an intellectual property of theirs,
No,
because
it's
it's
not.
docu. Yes, it is. It's part of the
No, it's not.
WWE. Yes,
No,
it
it's
is.
not.
You got
No, it's
Paul
not.
Levesque. You got Paul Levesque in there get interviewed. You
I
have
don't think
Bruce
it's intellectual
Pritchard get
property of
get.
it.
You got Bruce Pritchard getting interviewed in it. I mean,
True.
come on, Ricky. I mean, it's again.
They they told stuff what happened in the past with WWE. I
It
mean, it's
doesn't
not like
matter, Ricky.
I don't
People
think it's not.
still associate Vince McMahon with WWE, and they still associate all that's going on, good and bad,
What I'm saying
with
is,
WWE.
they don't have to separate themselves from Vince McMahon. They're already separated from Vince McMahon.
They might be with shares, but they're not separated uh,
How?
figuratively. Figuratively, they're not. When you say WWE, who's the first person you think of? Who's the first person anybody thinks of? Vince
The
McMahon.
Undertaker.
Because you're a wrestling fan. But if you have the public and you have shareholders,
Brad.
it is Vince McMahon.
Vince McMahon has not stepped foot within WWE property or anything like that in quite some time.
Doesn't matter.
Yes,
It does
it
not
does.
matter, Ricky,
Yes,
because
it
you
does.
still have these lawsuits involving
Brad,
personalities and
they
investigations going on. Yes, it does have to do with
Brad,
Vince McMahon.
my whole point is,
Oh my God.
listen, dude, listen.
I'm listening, but I'm laughing.
Listen, you can laugh all you want to,
I'm
man.
laughing, yes.
What I'm trying to tell you is, documentary or no documentary,
Oh my goodness.
they're separated from Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon has nothing to do with it. I don't care what the public eye thinks.
The public eye matters. It's a public company. It's a public company.
The public eye themselves even know, my friend, Vince McMahon has nothing to do with it anymore. They know this. They know this because guess what? They announced the merger. It's a merger. And guess
what? It don't
what?
matter, Ricky.
When Vince, yes, it does, because Vince has nothing to do with it anymore. The documentary was the documentary. It's just like Michael Jordan, the Chicago Bulls. It's like Michael Jordan, the Chicago. Hang on. It's like Michael Jordan, the Chicago Bulls. You think because Michael Jordan was a jerk, they should be taking all the championships away? You think Chicago should separate themselves from Michael Jordan? No, because Michael Jordan doesn't play for them anymore. It's the same thing with Vince McMahon.
That's totally different. That's
no,
totally
it's not.
different.
No,
absolutely
it's not.
Is. Absolutely.
No, it's
you
not.
don't have a guy being charged by right now getting investigated by the feds.
Not
you
yet.
Don't have. You
even
don't
if
have
they
that.
did, even if they did, he doesn't play for them anymore. If he were to get in trouble now, like right now, it has no effect on the Chicago Bulls whatsoever. None. Zero.
But that's totally different. You're talking about years. You're talking about years ago. Number one, and number two, you're talking about Michael Jordan never owned the Chicago Bulls. He never owned them. He played for them. He made money for them. Oh my God.
What he did in WWE, he's away from W. The TKO has a board of directors, Brad. A board of directors. Guess who's not on it? Vince McMahon.
I know who's not. But when you say WWE to anybody, I'm telling you right now, the first person they say, "Oh, that's that company Vince McMahon founded." Oh, that's what that crook founded.
I want you to listen to me. I understand what you're saying. I understand that when people say WWE, they all of a sudden think of Vince McMahon. What I'm trying to tell you is they did not need this documentary to separate themselves from Vince McMahon. They had the allegations because of to separate themselves from Vince McMahon. They don't need the documentary. The documentary has nothing to do. The documentary has nothing to do with what's going on in today's WWE.
I guarantee you, the next press conference after a pay-per-view, Paul Levesque will get asked a question about the documentary. I guarantee you that. I guarantee you about that.
Of course he will. Brad, you asked a question. I answered it.
Okay, and we
The
disagree.
okay, but what I'm saying is, and you're not getting this, they don't need the documentary to set themselves apart from Vince McMahon.
I disagree with that. I think they need
Why?
it. It's
Why?
like for example, I'll give you a great example. Churches. A
Okay.
pastor, gets in trouble for moral failure.
Yeah.
And it's a mega churches. We've had one here recently. I'm trying to think of his name, but I know it's Gateway Church in Dallas. Guess who they fired him. They fired his son. But when I say Gateway Church, who do you think that's going to be mentioned on that?
Just because I don't give a damn.
I'm just saying, Ricky, it's the same
Gateway,
concept.
Gateway Church. You mentioned Gateway Church versus
Gate.
WWE. No one's ever heard of Gateway
Gateway,
Church compared.
it's a mega church.
I guarantee you, more of our listeners have heard of WWE before they've heard
I
of Gateway
I
Church.
know that, but I'm
That was
trying
a
to use an
terrible.
example.
That was a
No, it's
terrible
not.
example.
No, it's
You
not.
need to think analytically,
It's
sir.
not. It's
Think
not terrible.
analytically.
Yeah, it's
We're
not.
moving on. We're
My
moving on.
goodness. Yeah,
We're
please
moving
do
on.
because I'm about
We're
to
moving
die
on.
laughing.
We're moving on. We're moving on. You don't get what I'm saying. We're moving on. Ah.
Oh my lord. That's boy, you got me laughing pretty good.
Don't need the documentary. I promise you they don't.
I disagree. Let's
Even
go ahead and
if,
move on. Move
hey,
on.
Triple H's going to get asked questions because of the documentary. But trust me, man, they don't need the documentary. He's gone.
I need a documentary.
No, they
Anyway,
don't.
let's go to
No, they
Arkansas
don't.
football.
What they need is a freaking brain is what they need. What they need is a drink like me right now, and I don't even drink that much.
Well,
And here we go.
Here's the problem. Do they need a Drake because of the storylines right now, or do they need a Drake because of listening us to?
Now we can probably agree with it because you and I both darn good well know WWE sucks right now. All right. College football. College football, Arkansas Razorbacks. Oh gosh, here we go. They once again get beat. Oh boy. And so if you can get to this, hey, goodness gracious, you know what? Clicking out of that. I hate this thing, I swear, dude.
Breaking news: Vince McMahon is.
No, we're not doing that crap. Breaking news: Vince McMahon in my rear end. Trying to get everything going. All right, so let's see here. So Arkansas losing to Texas A&M 21-17.
Surprise, right?
There's no surprise there.
I know I'm just being facetious, but yeah.
Yeah, the good thing is our defense is fine right now, which I think is fine. Our defense is fine right now. Our offense has got to start clicking at some point or time. I ran into David Basil here a while back before the season started, Brad. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I agree with is something that I'm noticing and that I'm actually noticing with this team. We're not very fast at wide receiver. We are not very fast. We don't have much speed, if I want to put that.
Yeah,
as far as the wide receivers go. And I think that's one reason why you don't see Tyler Green or Tyrus, whatever the heck his name is, getting rid of the football as quick as what he possibly should. And I saw some of the plays and everything like that. Once again, we outgained them. We had 10 penalties. Surprise, surprise. They had 7. 3 turnovers. We had 3 turnovers. 1 interception, 2 fumbles. So that right there is the reason why we lost the football game. And so, the same thing, same old, we try to find a way to give up games and everything like that. But we got to get some more speed. I think once we get some more speed, we'll be fine. But that's the thing. We're not very fast right now. And so time possessions was about 50-50. We had the ball for about a minute longer than what Texas A&M did. Let's see. We were 5 of 15 on third down versus them at 4 and 13. 2 for 3 on fourth down. Texas A&M did not even attempt a fourth down. Total yardage: Arkansas 379, Texas A&M 300. We only rushed for 100 yards. They rushed for 137.
Most of that came in the fourth quarter.
Most of that came within the fourth quarter. And then of course we threw the ball 41 times. That's a lot. They threw the ball 22 times. That's your ball game. That is your ball game.
Well, Ricky, I know you said all those statistics, but I don't care about those anymore. I don't think Arkansas fans cares about that anymore. What they see is once again Arkansas losing a one possession game. 10 penalties, that's what they see. They see a offensive line that's better than last year, but still very non-average. Not they're under average on the offensive line. And again, turnovers. And you see again Arkansas having a late lead and blowing it. And Ricky, I'm going to say this: I think apathy is starting to sit in with the Arkansas fan base with these losses. And I'm going to be honest with you. Um, you can say that the offense needs time, and I agree. I agree they do need time. I think the defense is good, very good. You know, Landon Jackson had a breakout game yesterday. I mean, he had 2 sacks, shout out to Landon Jackson, Pleasant Grove Hawks alum. So he had a great game. But Ricky, Sam Pittman is not going to see a sixth season of these improvements if he doesn't get to a bowl. That's just the fact of it. He's got to close out these games. And you got a team over there in Texas A&M with their first year coach, that is playing physical football. They're really got Echo's identity, and they're most likely going to be going to a bowl game while we're in Sam Pittman's 5th year and we're scrambling of trying to make a bowl game. Now, obviously, there's some winnable games we still have. We could Mississippi State and Louisiana Tech. I do believe we have a chance against Ole Miss. I do believe we have a chance against LSU. And they could get to your 7-win mark, or they could get to my 6 wins, 6-6. Although before I changed my mind, I had them at 5-7, and Sam Pittman taking a retirement into Lake Hamilton, which right now seems more likely. But Ricky, you can throw all those statistics all you want, Ricky. But at the end of the game, we're in year 5 with Sam Pittman. And it's the same old song and dance. And I said this at the beginning. They had to go after that Oklahoma State loss. They had to go the next 3 games, they had to go 3-0. They went 2-1. Yes, I get they beat Auburn, but look at Auburn right now. Auburn's not very good. Auburn's not a good football team. I mean, they blew a lead against Oklahoma. They threw a pick 6 to lose that game. They're not very good. And we lose to a Texas A&M team, but once again, and here's a fact for you, Ricky. You know, in the last 13 meetings, Texas A&M has gone 12-1 against Arkansas. In 10 of those 12 wins that A&M has, they have trailed in that game. 10 of those 12 wins, they have trailed. So this whole series has been pretty bad for Arkansas. But specifically right now, Ricky, I don't think any Arkansas fans, they don't want to hear how good the offense is. They don't want to hear how good the defense is. They don't want to hear about the great fake punt. Because what we're going to point out is, well, Sam Pittman called timeout and then runs a darn fake field goal out the freaking timeout. These are just things that just drives me nuts. And I know you're going to maybe defend a little bit of them, and I understand it. But to me right now, I don't care about the stats. I don't care about anything. I wish they would just win a one-possession game. I wish they would close a game out. I mean, right now, in one-possession games, congratulations, Sam Pittman's now 6-16 in one-possession games. Wow, Arkansas. That's not good enough. I hope, and again, Ricky, we both like Sam Pittman. I like Sam Pittman. I want him to succeed. But right now, we might have seen the start of the end of the Sam Pittman era. That's all I got to say about it.
If this were year 2, year 3, I think I would have more of a defense of what I want to say. because I really do believe that this team is trying to compete. I think one of the things that we
Remember,
also have to one th- things that we also have to remember is Bobby Petrino coming back in. You remember Bobby Petrino's first year, he went 4-8 his first year, and it was because he was trying to get his offensive system going. The players he has right now doesn't really reflect on what Bobby Petrino can do offensively. It's going to take them a little bit of time to get it in. Now they have a lot to figure out between now and then. They have a very difficult schedule to close out the year. They have home against Tennessee and LSU in the next couple of weeks. They go to Starkville, or yeah, they go to Starksville for Mississippi State, and you and I both know that's a trap game already. They Ole Miss, Texas, and La Tech at home. Then they go to Missouri, and so like I said, there's a lot after this week. After this coming week against Tennessee, they do have a bye week, so hopefully um, they will be on this. I would feel a lot better right now if we were 4-1 versus the 3-2 mark, because with the schedule
agree.
coming up, with the schedule coming up, 5-7 probably going to be the mark. I want it to be 6-6. I want it to be 7-5. I want them to win out. Because here's the thing, Brad. If they were to win out, there's a very, very good argument that the Arkansas could make the playoffs. That's a dream.
Yeah,
That's a dream
yeah.
pipe. That's a dream. That's a dream pipe. Just because there's so many ranked teams between
But
now. Five of the next 7 games are ranked teams, and so it's definitely going to be tough. And so
Ricky, just real quick, let's back that up real quick.
yeah,
So Sam Pittman has won 9 games since, but I think his second season he won 9 games.
yeah.
My question is, I'm not saying Arkansas should make the playoffs every year, but every once in a while, don't you think Arkansas should be good enough to have that special season where they make the playoffs? Like every once 3 years? I mean, is that too much to ask?
Program that's going to win 9, 10 games a year because we're not that prestigious. But when it comes to the SEC, I mean, you look at some of these places. All right, so like Oxford, Mississippi. No one wants to go to Mississippi. How are the Mississippi schools better than us right now? That's absolutely pathetic. But a lot of these schools that we have are out in the middle of nowhere. There's actually something to do in Fayetteville. Fayetteville's a very, very beautiful place.
It
Unlike some of
is.
these,
Some
some of
say it's
these
going to be the new
others.
Dallas.
Yeah, exactly. And so yeah, like I said, there's a lot to offer at Arkansas, but like I said, I don't know, and that's the thing is like I don't know if there's a coach out there right now that I can point a finger at and say that's the guy that can turn the program around. It's going to be someone we don't expect. Heck, they may turn it around for the rest of the year. I don't know. They beat the Tate this week. All's forgiven from last week. So
Well, I tell you one coach I would go after right now. He's a hot. I think he would be great for Arkansas. I mean, Barry Odom got UNLV pretty much humming at 4-0. I mean, and they're ranked for
thing
the
though,
first. They're
he
ranked the
didn't
first
he
time in the
didn't
top 25.
but he didn't do anything at Missouri.
Well, he's has it. Well, here's the thing, Ricky. Many people don't forget that Missouri was on probation. In his last 2 years at Missouri, they were not bowl eligible because of because of violations that was done before under the Gary Pinkel era. Now, Gary Pinkel wasn't he wasn't found guilty of those himself, but there was violations where now Barry Odom still went 6-5 his last season with a bowl ban. So I mean, it's not like he did horrible at Missouri, but you seen him right now going to UNLV. UNLV has a chance to make the college football playoff. I mean,
They could be the group of 5 that does it. True.
yeah, and so I mean, I think of Barry Odom. I think of another guy. He works for ESPN right now. I hate Cincinnati. But
Yeah.
seriously, look what he did at Mississippi State. I mean, and look, even at Florida, and I think right now there's some Florida fans that regret firing him. 3 of the 4 years, he had them at 9-10 wins. I mean, it wasn't like he, did horrible at Florida. I mean, he made a stupid statement about recruiting, and
It's
that
true.
pretty much turned everybody off. But I mean, that's 2 names I have right there right now. But I mean, I want Sam Pittman to succeed. I want everybody to know that. I want Sam Pittman to succeed, and I want Arkansas to win out too. But Ricky, I think me you will agree. If they go 5-7, I don't think Sam Pittman's back. I don't think he's
I think he's
back.
done.
Yeah,
I
and
think he's done.
so that's going to be the problem. Is Bobby Petrino's not going to get to improve on what offense he could have brought to Arkansas if Petrino had another year, because if you get a new coach, you're probably going to have a new coaching staff, and of course, the defensive coordinator, he's very good, and we have a good, decent defense, but again, the same mistakes keeps plaguing the University of Arkansas football, and it just, I mean, like I say, we're year 5, and it should be better. Like you say, if we were at year 2 or 3, yeah, I would give Sam Pittman one more year. I would give him one more year, but we're year 5. I'm done. I'm done with the excuses. I'm done with the mistakes. We got to do better. Hopefully, we win next week. That'd be great if we beat Tennessee, but I don't see it happening, but it'd be great.
Teams that beating us, we're going to hear from Jason Pate for the first time in a while. All right.
We should have him on the show. We should have him on the show.
Goodness gracious. We're not going to hear the end of it. Right. Scrolling down through here, of course, Bama and Georgia. Golly, Georgia stormed back, and I thought they were going to pull it off, but Bama ends up winning that football game. One heck of a game. Let's see here. Rutgers is surprising me, surprising the people. They're undefeated still. Let's see. I'm trying to scroll through games. Of course, we know about Kentucky.
Indiana's undefeated. The Indiana Hoosiers 5-0.
Indiana's undefeated. I think they're in the top 25 too. We'll get to that here in a minute too. Let's see here. Notre Dame beats Louisville at home. Golly, Notre Dame had a pretty decent lead on Louisville too. Clemson seems to be storming back a little bit. Oklahoma State, they're done.
Miami and Virginia Tech. Let's talk about that call.
Yeah, that was a Hail Mary thing, and yeah, I didn't see the replay or anything like that, but they called it incomplete once they saw the replay.
Yeah, and I didn't see enough evidence to overturn a touchdown. It could have. I mean, most likely it probably was incomplete, but you couldn't definitely prove it. I mean, there's just not there to. Because the definition is you have to have indisputable evidence, and there was nothing indisputable in that videos. I'm sorry, but anyway, that's my opinion on that.
See, I'm watching it right now. He's out of bounds.
Well, that's.
Oh wait, hang on. That was the play before. Never mind. Hang on. I think they're gonna. Oh yeah, he was out of bounds. Okay, that was different. Why in the world would you let him? I don't understand that. Okay, here we go. Oh yeah, that's incomplete. All day long, he didn't complete the process of the catch.
But what they're saying is Miami took the ball away. You look closely. There's other angles, but
Let's see. Here's an angle. Yeah, he didn't complete the process of the catch.
Anyway,
Yeah, that's what it is. I don't think he completed the process of the catch. Yeah, when I looked, in real time, I'm like, that's not a touchdown. Like,
anyway, but yeah, you had that. Oklahoma State's done. Kansas State, Arizona beat Utah. Utah.
That was surprising. Arizona played defense. Yeah, that was real surprising.
Yeah, Utah was starting a freshman quarterback. Their starter's still injured. But Utah's one of those teams that comes charging at the end. Of course, Colorado put a beat down on UCF. I mean,
that was a surprise for me. I didn't think that was going to happen.
Yeah, I didn't think so either. I thought UCF would control the clock, but yeah, they put a beat down on them.
They look real good.
Yeah. So
here's something else that's weird, Brad. You know what Paragould and Louisiana Monroe have in common? Yeah. They're both 3-1. Louisiana Monroe was 3-1. They beat Troy 13-9. That is absolutely insane and ridiculous.
Well, shout out Penn State beat Illinois barely. That was a close game throughout the game, and I think Penn State pulled away at the end, beating them 21-7. So another
On fourth quarter scoring, let's see, New Mexico beat New Mexico State 50-40. Air Force is horrible once again.
Army and Navy 4-0 for the first time since 1945.
It's a good deal when
Now imagine if one of
well.
them made it to the college football playoff.
Can they though?
Yeah, they're both in the AAC.
Then how come I hardly ever see them even get like, I don't know. I just don't know.
Well, their schedule stinks, but I mean,
I was about to say because they play the Army Navy game when everybody else is playing their conference games.
The good news is Navy, both Navy and Army does play Notre Dame this year. So they do play Notre Dame. That'll be their probably game to spotlight. And of course, they play each other, which they could play each other again for the championship.
This dude. So this is Army's next 5 games at Tulsa. That's going to be a win.
Yep.
UAB at home. That's going to be a win. Yep. Eastern Carolina, they're terrible. That's going to be a win. At North Texas, that's a toss-up, but it's a winnable football game. Then they're at home against Notre Dame. Basically, the week, I think that's Thanksgiving week. I can't remember what the week of Thanksgiving is this year. I have to look and see.
It's the week of me and my wife's anniversary. The week of the 24th.
Okay, yeah, because the 24th is on Sunday. So is it that Thursday the 28th, or is it the Thursday before on the 21st?
What's that?
Is it on the 21st or the 28th?
28th. Thanksgiving's on 28th.
Okay, because about to say because they play the 23rd.
Yeah.
Yeah. November 28th this year. So yeah, I hate it when they do that. They move it to the last freaking week.
So Army
off that week.
So here's the thing: Army could go into the Notre Dame game undefeated.
Undefeated. And you think that's not going to be a game of the week? Absolutely.
Of course they would.
Freaking Army going undefeated against Notre Dame.
And here's the thing. Here's another thing. Game day was probably going to be heading to Fayetteville if we won the game.
Probably so.
Because you know where they're heading next week? To Berkeley, California for the Cal versus Miami game.
Never mind. I don't want to know. Why would you have Cal?
Mark Herman, baby. Mark Herman.
Let's see here. This is Navy's schedule. Gosh, that's not like Navy plays very many games. They're at Air Force next week. That's going to be a win. Charlotte, that's going to be a win. Navy's going to be undefeated going into that Notre Dame game.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They're going to be undefeated. And it's they play at 11 a.m., but that's the day of the wrestling event at the school. So, yeah, hopefully Coach will have it on. I might have Coach to have it on because he usually puts games on while we're in the gym anyway. So
there you go.
But here's the thing. This is the rest of their schedule after Notre Dame. At Rice, that's going to be a win. Rice is okay, but the Navy will beat them. At South Florida, that's going to be tough. Tulane, that's going to be tough. East Carolina, that's a win. So, y'all, could you imagine if we have an Army versus Navy undefeated going into that week? Do you realize how many people would stay in? Just how many people will actually watch that game? My wife would even watch that game, and she didn't even know what I'm talking about. But I'm just saying. I love you too, honey. It's like they say, honey, L for love.
L for love.
Just like in the movie, just like in Dodgeball. It's a great movie, by the way. Great movie.
Oh, yes.
All right.
You can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball.
That's exactly. And that's usually how it works. All right, let's see here. See, I know there's really not a whole lot to talk about. We're not talking about my Cowboys. It's not happening.
Oh, let's talk about that for a second.
We're not talking about the Cowboys.
They beat the Giants. They won against the Giants, Ricky.
Brad, anybody can beat the Giants. Come on, man. Anybody can beat the Giants.
They won, Ricky. The sad part is they're not even the best team in Texas.
No. That's the Houston Texans. Everybody knows that. Oh goodness, I don't know, man.
Well, Ricky, let's just put it this way. Uh, it's bad.
Yes, it is definitely bad. Hmm.
Well, good news is probably next year, the Cowboys will probably make a run at Bill Belichick to be the next head coach. I
And I
almost
and
guarantee
I
it.
will and I will not be a Cowboy fan anymore.
But
I'm
here's the
throwing it
thing.
in.
But
I'm
here's the
throwing it
thing.
in. Right
Bill
now,
Bel
I am a Washington Commanders fan. I am a Commanders fan because I called it that they were going to make the playoffs, and they're 3-1.
and they might win the
They're not
division.
disappointed. They might win the division. I picked them to win the division too.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, here's the deal, Ricky. Bill Belichick ain't going to the Cowboys unless he has personnel control, which no, Jerry Jones ain't never given that up. So I mean, he did for a little bit with Bill Parcells. He did, of course, he did for a little bit with Jimmy Johnson. Of course, that's what caused the rift with Jimmy Johnson and him. Yeah, my Broncos won.
because Broncos,
My Broncos won.
Bron-
They got the
Bo,
same record as the Dallas Cowboys.
and Bo Nick Patrick for 65 yards. I'm glad. I hope you're proud.
And Michigan, look at Michigan. They only threw for 86 yards this past Saturday.
Yeah, but it's Michigan. All right, let's get to pick. Let's get to pick for this next week. Oh goodness gracious, I'm tired.
Well, let me
Ah,
get over here real quick.
yeah, get over there real quick. We have a couple of Friday games, by the way. These games are Friday's games have been weird.
Yeah,
Goodness
matter of fact,
gracious.
Nebraska says they do not want to play any more Friday games after they lost to Illinois.
I do not blame them either.
I don't blame them. I don't either. Oh man. Okay, let me get over there real quick. Here I am. There we go. All right. Let's make our picks.
Do this. All right, first up, two Friday games. The first one is Syracuse against UNLV. This should be a very good football game. What
Uh
also
oh.
noted, there's also a couple of notes here. There are a couple of Thursday games this week. Sun Belt
1 second.
football.
Sorry.
You okay?
Yeah, I'm trying to get to my picks.
Oh, I'm announcing a couple other things anyway for Thursday anyway. We're actually gonna have Thursday night football, other than the crappy Thursday nights that the NFL usually gives us.
Yeah.
Texas State and Troy play each other. Texas State struggled the last couple of weeks, but I think they're gonna bounce back.
They
And
got offered to go to the Mountain West Conference. Texas
I
State
would
did.
I would stay where they're at. There's no point in going anywhere else.
No, after and Memphis declined the offer to go to the Pac-12. By the way, whatever.
Memphis. I would have done the same thing. All right, you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, so the first game we have matchup Syracuse at UNLV. Brad, we could go to Vegas on Friday and watch this game for $40. I think it'd be a great game to watch too. I've got UNLV winning this football game. Would not surprise me if Syracuse finds a way to win this game though.
Yeah, Syracuse actually is a very underrated team and a sleeper in the ACC. But yeah, I got UNLV too. Vegas on Friday. Yeah, I think UNLV over Syracuse.
Vegas has opened up a 4.5 point favorite. So yeah, that hopefully there'll be this. Oregon is a 24 point favorite against Michigan State. I would, if I'm a betting man, I'm taking the point. I think Oregon's going to win the football game, but Michigan State's not bad defensively.
Well, they did lose by 31 to Ohio State, 38-7. Yeah, I'll take Oregon, and I'm going to take the points too. I'll take Oregon and the points if I was a betting man.
You think they're going to win by more than 24?
Oh, I think so. Yeah. I mean, I think Oregon right now, they're kind of starting to hum now. They're starting to become the Oregon that we're used to right now. I'll take Oregon over Michigan State.
Field at College Station. This would be one heck of a game to go see. Texas A&M is favored by a point.
Ooh,
Mizzou, I think, was off this past
yes, they
week,
were.
which they needed to. They were pretty banged up after their tight knit with my Vanderbilt Commodores. I don't know who to pick in this game. Let you pick
Uh,
first.
I'll pick Mizzou because they're coming off the bye to get healthy. So I'll take Mizzou over A&M. Of course, A&M still is still starting a freshman quarterback. Although he has been very good, has not turned the ball over. I still trust Mizzou over A&M. But I would be surprised A&M pull the upset. It's going to be very close.
Surprisingly, 3-1. They also had a bye week after beating Coastal Carolina a couple of weeks back. They played Boston College. Boston College is also, let me look. I think they're 4-1. Yeah, I think they had that one loss to Missouri, which I thought they should have won. Boston College and Virginia. Who do you got?
Well, I'm going to change my Missouri pick to A&M because I convinced myself A&M is going to beat Missouri. Anyway, I'll take Boston College over Virginia. I really like this Boston College team. I like how Bill O'Brien and he's a very underrated coach, Ricky, especially with X's and O's, especially in the college game. BC over UVA.
Is SMU against Louisville.
Yeah, SMU in their first ACC game destroyed Louisville. Speaking of NIL era, boy, don't you think those SMU boosters that were banned back years ago are now licking their chops about how they can now fund their program? I mean, now it's legal. So, but I'm going to take Louisville. Louisville's a very good team. Although Notre Dame did beat them, I mean, it was still only a touchdown game. I mean, it wasn't like Notre Dame completely blew them out, but I trust Louisville. Louisville over SMU.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna take Louisville as well. Auburn at Georgia. Give me Georgia. I think Georgia bounces back.
Yeah, they don't. Yeah.
Auburn should not have lost to Oklahoma though. That was horrible.
Well, at least they had a highlight with the cheerleader knocking over the Oklahoma player. I mean,
that was awesome. Okay, next up, Ole Miss at South Carolina. Now, we do have to put a note in, Brad. Didn't South Carolina beat Kentucky?
They did.
Did they blow them out?
They blew Kentucky out. Now, in Kentucky's defense, I will say this: the week before was their first game of the season, and they only got to play a half because of it was a ranked delay. So you have your first AC. Well, yeah, they blew them out. They should have blew them out. Yeah. This could be a tricky game for Ole Miss. Yeah. I'll say Ole Miss wins, but not by much.
I think I'm on boat with you, and I really want to pull the trigger here.
Me too.
They still have Ole Miss favored by 9.
That's surprising. I don't think it's going to be a 9-point game. I think I would say within a field goal.
I don't know, because when Lane Kiffin loses a game, he gets really ticked off, and then all of a sudden, all you know what breaks loose. So I'm just saying, like it's definitely going to be a definitely going to
Believe in Beamer ball.
Exactly. Iowa 3-1 going to the Ohio State University in Columbus, Ohio. I really want to pull the trigger here because I really love Iowa's defense, but they have no offense, Brad. I can't pull the trigger here.
Yeah, they still don't have an offense, although it's better than last year, which you couldn't get much last year. So, yeah, give me Ohio State over Iowa. Iowa will keep it close for a while, but Ohio State will eventually blow them out because they can't score.
If I'm not mistaken, there is not a ranked versus. I think the only ranked versus ranked game going on this week is Missouri and Texas A&M. But if there's a game, Brad, that I could pick out, and say this could be the game of the week, is this next one that we're about to come up right now. Is Rutgers and Nebraska. Both of them are not ranked, which is understandable because both none of them have really. I know Nebraska lost Illinois, which was a pretty good game. Rutgers has barely won all their games except for of course they blew out Howard and Akron, which everybody blows out Howard and Akron. And then they beat Virginia Tech, and they just beat Washington by 3 points the other night. But like I said, I think Nebraska is on a little bit more of a different level.
Yeah.
But and they beat Purdue 28-10. Oh gosh, Brad, I want to say Rutgers, but I can't do it. I'm gonna go Nebraska.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Nebraska too. I think they pull it out. Plus, it's a home game as well. If it was at Rutgers, I would definitely pick Rutgers. But since they're playing at Nebraska, I think that's the difference in the game. Nebraska over Rutgers.
Another good game, Brad, to go if you're a Sun Belt fan, which we could take a trip to Monroe and watch James Madison play Monroe. UL Monroe 3-1. I don't even know the last time Monroe even won 3 games in a season. I couldn't tell you.
And James Madison became the first team to score over 63 points since 2006 in 2 straight games. By the way,
That is pretty good. That's pretty good.
yeah. And North Carolina beat Duke. And they played defense in that game.
North Carolina did not beat Duke.
Oh, they did not. Duke must have came back. Okay, last
Duke
time I checked, yeah.
won 21-20.
There you go.
North Carolina was ahead by 17. Win for Monroe, by the way. So Monroe started their program in 1975. They have won 152 games. They've lost 278, and they've tied twice. This would be huge for them. Let's see here. The last time, of course, they have a new coach this year. I did not know that. The last time they won 3 games, which was 2022, but they went 4-8. Yeah, they haven't had a winning season in quite a while. It's been quite a while since they've had a winning season. Let's see here. 2012 was the last winning season that Monroe has had. This is probably the best team they've had in a while. Brad, that's the only winning season they've had? Are you serious? I'm looking through here. That's the serious. Wow, I did not know that. That is the only year they've had a winning season, and it's the only year they've gone to a bowl game. Wow.
And I think that was the year after they beat Arkansas at Little Rock.
Let's see, 2012. Yeah, they went 4-8 the year they beat us at Little Rock. That's horrible. That's horrible. That just tells you how bad it was. No. That was the year they beat us.
Oh, yeah. Okay, they made a bowl. Okay, so we had a reasonable excuse why we lost to Monroe that year.
Let's see here. Let me look at this. I think that's right. Let me look here and see.
I cannot remember. I thought I was here.
I think you're. Let me look here. I'm actually trying to find it right now. Yes, that was the year they beat us at Little Rock.
Wow. Well, I guess we had an excuse.
They were good. Well, here's the thing. They beat us in Little Rock, and then we had a benefit of a doubt because they went down to Auburn. They only lost to Auburn by 3 at Auburn. They lost to Baylor by 5. The only other 2 losses they had, Arkansas State blew them out that year.
Oh Lord. Yeah.
No,
that's great.
they beat us, barely lost to Auburn and Baylor, and then they won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games in a row. Lost 2, won 2, then they lost to Ohio and the Independence Bowl in Shreveport. That's the only winning season that Monroe has had. There'd be another one this year, but now James Madison should win this football game.
Yeah, James Madison. They're probably
whatsoever.
James Madison is probably the best team in the Sun Belt right now. St. James Madison over ULM, University of Louisiana Monroe.
So Tennessee, moving on.
Yeah, Tennessee. And one thing to watch for that game too, Ricky, is if it's a blowout. Woo. Anyway.
Hopefully we keep it competitive. Gosh, I just hope we keep it competitive. Tennessee's that good though. Michigan at Washington. I really want to pull the trigger here.
I'm going to pull the trigger.
Oh, good.
I think Washington will beat Michigan. I think they bounce back. The thing about way the Michigan's playing is they got to keep playing perfect. And eventually, it's a road game. They got a freshman quarterback. Not seeing that. I think Washington will beat Michigan this game.
I'm still going to take Michigan, but I respect it.
Mm-hmm.
Baylor at Iowa State. I think Iowa State's still undefeated too.
They are undefeated. The first time they've been undefeated since 2001, so in 23 years. So at this stage of the season. Yeah, give me Iowa State. I like how Matt Campbell's team's playing right now. Give me Iowa State over Baylor.
I'll pick Baylor.
Yeah, okay. All right. All right.
Yeah, Baylor played very, very close to BYU. I think BYU is still one of the best teams in that conference right now. Them and Kansas State. I think Kansas State's probably the overwhelming favorite right now, even though Kansas State. No, BYU beat Kansas State, didn't they?
They got blown out. Kansas State got blown out at BYU.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought. I'm like, wait a minute, didn't they get blown out? That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Anyways, so anyway, yeah, they played them very close. Iowa State, though, man, they've had some close ones and some doozies, but I'm gonna pull the trigger and pick Baylor.
Okay, so I respect that.
And then last but not least, your boys down at Floridaville going up against Gus Malzahn in Central Florida. Give me Central Florida.
You know, crazy part is I want to pull the trigger and pick Florida over UCF because how bad UCF played last week because they did not play good at all. But I agree with you. UCF is going to beat Florida. Like I say, this is the marching in of the Billy Napier campaign. I'm surprised that you have number one not put Miami versus Cal on this list because Cal's that.
I ain't playing Miami versus Cal on this.
Cal's 3-1.
They barely beat Auburn. I don't want to hear it.
They are 3-1 still. And by the way, that I think I say Cal beats Miami. Seriously. I'm going to go with Cal over Miami.
I cannot wait to ATFS on Tuesday. On Tuesday, I am going to tell Alex all about it. He is just, I cannot wait to tell him on Tuesday. Cannot wait.
I pick Cal over, I'm picking Cal over Miami. Cal, the thing about Cal is Cal can play defense. They play very good defense.
I give you that. I give you that much, but they don't have offense. Then again, Miami don't have defense.
And Cal's coming off a bye week too, so you never know.
If it's a Friday game, I'd probably go with it.
Yeah. Well,
you forgot Friday games are weird.
And then number two, you forgot one game we didn't mention: Vandy versus Alabama.
I didn't mention that one, did I?
Yeah, you skipped that one.
Go Commodores! God, we're gonna get killed.
You know what though? I think Vandy will be competitive in this game. I don't think it's going to be a complete blowout. I think. No, it's not.
It's going to be a complete blowout. Alabama has.
I think Alabama has
0% chance to lose it. Vanderbilt has a 0% chance of winning this game.
No, I think it will be. I think Alabama gets off a slow start, and I think Bama will eventually pull away and beat them 27-7.
You act like it's good. You think they're going to score 50 points on Alabama?
I mean,
you for 7 points on Alabama. Golly, I hope you're right. Probably so, though. It could be something like that. I don't know.
It's weird because Bama's coming off a emotional big win over Georgia. And like I say,
they got a perfect game too. Vanderbilt, please win. I hope Vanderbilt wins.
But Bama's gonna beat them. But I do think. But I think Vandy's gonna keep it competitive. I'm not gonna say. I mean, 27-7. I say Alabama over Vandy, 27-7.
27-7. I'll have to write that down. DAs of the week.
All right. So since we didn't get to have a show last week, my first day of the week goes to Hugh Freeze. After making the comment that he could beat Arkansas 9 out of 10 times. Well, you know what, Ricky? That's like me playing the lottery and saying I could win the lottery 9 out of 10 times. Come on, man. You can't even beat Oklahoma. You don't have a quarterback. So before you go spatting off your mouth about beating Arkansas 9 out of 10 times, how about you find yourself a quarterback? How about you actually win games? And how about you quit blaming the players and start pointing the finger at yourself? You even got called out by Bo Wallace. When's the last time you heard from Bo Wallace, ladies and gentlemen? When's the last time you heard from Bo Wallace? When's the last time? He even calls them out on Twitter. So my first DA of the week goes to Hugh Freeze, the head coach of the Auburn Tigers, who is now 2-3, I think, or I don't know what their record, but
I
who
think they're
cares?
I think they're 2-3. Yeah, adding on to that, their quarterback, by the way, one of their quarterbacks, by the way, says he cannot wait to play Arkansas because he has what he was ready, and I quote, ready to dominate
Yeah, the
Arkansas
freshman
like he
quarterback. Yeah.
always does. I cannot. And they still won. It's just a beautiful thing. I've already kind of mentioned my DAs, those DAs who thought that Vince McMahon was a very nice dude. Come on, people. Use your
I like.
brain and think. Use your brain and think.
So my last DA of the week goes to Jerry Jones for the comment he made for saying he could not afford Derrick Henry. That's why he didn't meet with him. You know who Derrick Henry's agent is, by the way?
I really don't.
He has the same freaking agent as Dak Prescott. You're telling
That's
me you could
awesome.
not afford? You
I
could
know
not
that.
afford? He has the same freaking
I,
agent as Dak Prescott.
I really did not know that.
Yes, he did. He does. I figured he didn't know that, but he has the same freaking agent, and you couldn't happen to just make a phone call and say, "Hey, we're very interested in Derrick Henry. Will he consider the Dallas Cowboys for a discounted price, and we can pay him later or something like that?" Heck no, because we can't afford him. Well, guess what, Jerry? Because you say you think you couldn't afford him, you now have one of the worst. Matter of fact, they have, did you know this? In their history, at this point of the season, or this past week at least, they had the least amount of rushing yards total for a season at this point of the season ever in Dallas Cowboys history. Even their 1-15 team that Jimmy Johnson took over in 1989 had more rushing yards than this team did. I mean, that just tells you
Suck.
how bad their running game is. I
It
mean,
sucks to suck.
it's awful. And you're telling me you could not afford Derrick Henry? You had the nerve to say that after you get your butt blown out or you get your butt beat by the Ravens. I don't want to hear that, oh, they almost came back. The Ravens wasn't trying in the fourth quarter. They pretty much were playing a prevent defense, want the clock to run out. Yeah, almost cost them, but heck, still they lost. Jerry Jones is the DA, and again, the Dallas Cowboys will not win until he quits being the GM. My last DA goes to also an Arkansas alum, Jerry Jones.
I thought you said your last DA again. I'm like, wait a minute. You just said your last DA was Jerry Jones. Now you're okay. Never mind. You got it. I thought you were.
Unless
I
you want
thought
to count the Oklahoma player getting blindsided by the Auburn cheerleader.
That's pretty cool, though. That was awesome. All right. Enough is enough. I am tired. It is time to go to bed and get up once again tomorrow. Once again, thank you to those who listen to us on a weekly/bi-weekly basis. Hopefully, we will be back next week. And that's all I've got.
Last thing, guys, as long as the human race exists, there will always be DAs.
Absolutely. And hopefully, Brady will get a game picked up this week.
Hope so
I,
too.
I know I'm booked the rest of the year. I think I have 1 week off coming up for too long, which is going to be great.
I'll say this. I got asked twice last week if I had games this past Friday, so maybe I'll get asked. So maybe
Yeah,
they got some people. So yeah, so there you go.
It's going to happen. All right. That's all until next time. Good night, everybody.
Good night.